Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Talk of the Towns here at NYAOT. Thank you for joining us. As always, remember, if you like what you're seeing, please make sure you hit like, please subscribe, and most importantly, please share with your friends. Anything town related, hit us up at nytowns.org. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear. We'd be glad to hear from you. We have a great guest for you here today. His name is Peter Baynes. He's the Executive Director of NYMIR. He's had a long history in local government service working at NYCOM, and we're going to welcome Peter in. And Peter, thank you so much for being here today.
Chris, thanks for having me.
I think you picked the one sunny day of this week and of last week. I think we've had enough rain, haven't we?
That's for sure. It's been terrible.
Peter and I both enjoy golf. I think you're a little bit better at it than I, but I appreciate the socks you wore today.
Sticking with the theme, yep.
Have you gotten out a lot this year?
Well, my wife thinks so, but I don't. I mean, 3 times maybe. How about you?
Perspective. About 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had a lot of opportunities with the weather, like you said. Yeah.
And twice was with my wife, so that's the secret.
There you go.
You gotta.
That's the key.
That's right. And they don't think it's so much. Thank you for joining with us. I talked a little bit about one of your hobbies, golf, but tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got to this position.
Sure. It's a long, sordid story, but so I grew up in Rochester, outside of Rochester, like you, another Monroe County guy.
What town?
I'm from East Rochester.
East Rochester.
Co-terminus town village.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right. So quick story, not to interrupt. I went to college at Fisher. I have a lot of stories in East Rochester.
Well, I grew up about a mile from Fisher, and I'm sure you went to a few of the establishments in East Rochester.
Padams, was Padams?
Padams Place, yeah.
Padams, yeah, that was our place.
Yep.
Yeah. Of course, I'm a West Sider. I'm from Greece, town of Greece.
Okay.
So. Normally, you East Siders wouldn't talk to us West Siders because that's the wrong side of the river.
Yeah, it's funny. Just going to the West Side was a big deal.
Yeah, it's different.
Back in the day.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, so I grew up in Rochester, went to Siena College, came out here, went to Siena, just outside of Albany here. Went down to D.C. after that to try to make it big at the federal level. Worked there for a couple of years for a government studies program, teaching high school kids about the federal government. Then I came back here and ended up getting a job at the New York State Conference of Mayors. I didn't really know what it was and told my new boss I'd stay for a couple of years. And 38 years later, I had been the executive director for 19. NYCOM, sister association to NYAOT, we represented cities and villages. They still do, even though I'm not there. That got me to Albany, and I stayed put.
And now you're at NYMIR.
Yeah, so then I retired from NYCOM the end of 23 and then started as the executive director at NYMIR on January 1st of 2024. I don't bring a insurance background per se, but a strong municipal background to NYMIR.
So tell everyone a little bit, tell them what NYMIR is about a little bit.
Well, NYMIR, like a lot of things at the local government, state government level, NYMIR came out of a crisis. Action had to happen, and luckily NYAOT, NYSAC, NYCOM were there back in the late 80s when there was a big insurance crisis in New York. Municipalities either couldn't get insurance or they were paying exorbitant rates. So the leaders of those 3 associations said, let's start an insurance company, property and casualty insurance company. Well, in New York, it's always a little tricky. They couldn't do it because there wasn't authorizing legislation. So they went to the legislature, got approval to create what's called a reciprocal insurer, which I think for your members in local governments, the best analogy is it's really a large intermunicipal agreement among all the participants who are known under the law as subscribers, where they reciprocate. That's why it's a reciprocal. They share each other's assets and liabilities, and they're in it together, which, as we talk some more about NYMIR, that would be kind of a recurring theme as to why we do what we do, because we're not just insuring an individual municipality, we're insuring now over 1,000 municipalities. So everything we do has to take into account the entire group.
So it's kind of like, for my days, I come from health. I was with an organization that had the last large and diverse pool, health insurance pool, in the state. So a reciprocal is a lot like just a large, diverse pool.
Exactly. And in most states, you could have a NYMIR and it would be called a pool because and it would be unregulated. Most states allow municipalities to come together to start an insurance pool, but in New York you have to actually be licensed by the state insurance department, and you operate under this more formal name of a reciprocal. But you're right, it's really the same as a pool.
Probably a little easier to for people to understand. But the word reciprocal, I know I've always gotten that. What does that mean? And it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense.
And it's important to note too, because we're licensed and regulated, we can't just do what we want whenever we want to do it. We have to file for rates, changes in rates up or down. So not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but we have to operate within that context in New York.
So NYMIR has been around a long time then.
Yeah, NYMIR, so I alluded to the late 80s was the insurance crisis. In 1993, under the law to form a municipal reciprocal, you had to have 25 municipalities at least willing to join. So the three associations had to travel around the state and try to sell the idea of a reciprocal, even though it didn't exist yet, to 25 municipalities to sign on to something that didn't exist. So it was kind of a chicken and an egg challenge, but in late 93, 26 municipalities joined. We were licensed, and we've just grown steadily since then to the point where we're 1,011 subscribers out of 1,600 local governments in New York.
So that's the lion's share of the market.
Yeah, we've got 2/3 to 70%. There are some very large counties and cities that the way they self-insure themselves, they really would never join a reciprocal. So, we have a good chunk of the marketplace.
So is growth a concern for you then? If you have most of the marketplace, is that a concern, or is that something in insurance that's not?
No, that's a good question. I think if we were a for-profit insurer, growth would be a discussion every single day. I think because we're a not-for-profit insurance company, because we're a reciprocal, because we have to protect all the entities, we have to make sure our underwriting is the best, is the most conservative. So when we bring in a new subscriber, we have to make sure they're going to fit in terms of risk management. So we sort of like with what we do with our rates we charge. We like slow changes, if they up or down. In terms of our growth as a reciprocal, we like slow, steady growth. Sometimes we grow faster because of the marketplace. Like the last 3 or 4 years have been a real hard insurance market. Hard meaning rates are going up, so we're more competitive than we normally would be with the competitors in the marketplace. A lot of insurers say they don't want to insure law enforcement agencies anymore. We're not going anywhere.
Right.
That we're a New York municipal insurer. We're there for municipalities when they need us. But again, we can't just take all comers if their risk management, their risk profile isn't where it needs to be. So again, we do grow, but we don't have shareholders that we have to be accountable to in terms of saying, oh yes, we reached our growth target. Having said all that, I think we have 60 new subscribers over the last 2 years, which is probably the most growth we've had in a 2-year period.
And your retention rates with that size chunk of the marketplace must be pretty good.
Yeah, we've been consistently between 97 and 97%. Renewal retention. We've been 99 the last 3 or 4 years again in this hard marketplace. So when municipalities join NYMIR, they tend to stay, and for a lot of reasons I think we'll get a chance to talk about.
So this is property and casualty. Are you seeing effects in your rates from all the things going on around the country, the fires and the floods and the hurricanes and all that? Does that affect New York market?
Yeah, well, it's kind of counterintuitive, at least this past year it's been. So we are heavily reinsured.
Okay.
Reinsurance, if you ever hear somebody say it at a cocktail party, all it is insurance.
Run. If anyone talks insurance
before you run,
at a cocktail
just
party,
know that reinsurance is insurance for insurance companies.
Yeah.
So we we're the insurer of all these municipalities, but we don't want to take on all the risk if there's a catastrophic event. So we buy reinsurance, especially on property insurance. So going into our renewal this year, we assumed what you just alluded to with all the fires and what was going on. We were going to get hit hard on our property reinsurance, but because New York isn't a wildfire state,
Mhm.
even though we've had a little bit here and there, the reinsurers that left California need to put their capital somewhere else.
Mhm.
So for the rest of the country, it became kind of a soft market, and our property reinsurance rates actually went down, notwithstanding all that you see going on in the
Right.
marketplace.
Yeah, all
So
over the place.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, my auto rates went up, and they told me it's because of all what's happening around the country. So
Yeah, yeah, that does with the commercial carriers. That seems to be
that's
the
the difference,
reasoning.
right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the difference. Um, so your retention rates are good. Haven't seen a lot of impact from across the nation. So these already sound like some of the things that make NYMIR special. But in your words, what is it that makes NYMIR special, so successful over these 40, 50 years, whatever it's been?
Well, when I talk to municipalities about it, I try to put myself in their shoes. If you're a New York municipality, you want to buy insurance. You want to buy it from somebody that knows New York State and the peculiarities and the laws of New York and knows municipal governments. And those two things are all we do at NYMIR. We insure New York municipalities. Um, I'd want to make sure there's a connection between the insurance company and the insureds. In our case, we have a board of governors of 13 municipal officials balanced between county, city, town, village that kind of are the eyes and ears of our program that inform us as to what we need to be doing. And equally important for that connection to the local governments on the ground are the NYAOTs, the NYCOMs, the NYSACs. Your three associations, as you know, come to every meeting. Your councils get calls every day from towns about issues. Your councils come to our meetings, they're able to tell us issues that are brewing, we can respond to that. So I think the connection to New York municipalities is the most important thing. I mean, I'd like to think me being the executive director helps a little bit. As we talked about, I
Mhm.
worked for cities and villages for 38 years and worked closely with the Association of Towns and Counties. So, we know our market, and we also have the same management company we've had from day one. They're based on Long Island, called Right Risk Management. We hire them to run the day-to-day insurance operations, and they have folks on their team that have been doing it for us for 20, 25 years, and they know our philosophy, and they know local governments in New York.
And I must say, the other thing I think that makes you different is the investment that you make back into the communities, particularly through sponsorships of the associations. I always say when folks when we have these corporate members sponsor the associations, they're actually investing into the municipal governments because our mission is serving those municipalities. And so all the support you've given the associations over the years, the sponsorships, have been just a direct investment back in.
That's a good point. I mean, and there is that direct financial investment, and there's also, I know we're going to talk about training, but you'll almost never go to a NYAOT or NYCOM or NYSAC meeting without NYMIR being there, having a presence, more than just a booth. Usually we sponsor an event, we put on a training event, and more what we're trying to do is do training with our team in conjunction with your councils, the other two associations' councils. So I think that shows how intrinsically tied together we are, and sends a good message to your membership that we're not just another insurance company. We're part of NYAOT, and NYAOT's part of us.
Right, absolutely. You bring up training. I think that's critically important. And you talked earlier about risk profile and trying to keep the risk down and helping people with risk management. So training is probably a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, training from day one has been important, has been big in terms of what we do. As you know, running an association, COVID changed the landscape in terms of online training became more acceptable and prevalent. So we've invested heavily in that. We have an online learning platform. It's actually called Learn by NeoGov is the company that puts it together. And we upload all of our training there. They have over 400 different subjects, topics having to do with municipalities on that educational platform. I think we have close to 8,000 different courses on there. But at the same time, and as I was thinking about talking to you today, there's definitely an analogy between the associations and the philosophy you all have and ours, which is kind of a, we know our people. You can pick up the phone and talk to somebody. So I say that now because we still feel in-person training is critically important. We have over 1,000 subscribers. If one of them called me today and said, "Hey, could you come out and do some cyber training in our town hall?" We'd say, "Yeah, if you can get a few other municipalities to come over, we'll be there." So we do a lot of training in person and online. Whether it's cyber, there's certain, as you know, there's certain state mandated training, workplace discrimination and harassment that we put on monthly. But yeah, it's because an important reason for it is because we are reciprocal, that we have to, we don't want to let one bad apple spoil the bunch. So we've got to make sure we're educating all of them all the time. And we have great participation in our program. So that's really important part of what we do.
And it's proactive, not reactive, so it's trying to prevent.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And some people might think, oh, an insurance company, yeah, of course they want risk management. They don't want to pay out claims, but there's also there's an expense to the municipality for a claim.
Yeah.
There's the inconvenience of the highway garage burning down. So it's in all of our best interest to make sure that we be as proactive in advance of things happening as possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Talk a little bit about risk management, a little bit about training. Any other strategies you may have for risk management with your subscribers that you talk to them about? Like, do you go and do audits, anything like that?
Yeah, we have a loss control team that they kind of changed their approach over time. They call them loss control consultations, where they don't try to have a heavy hand, but they'll come out and every year, unless your premium is really low, then it's every other year. And they'll do a visit. They'll sit down with you and then your department heads and point out things, get feedback from you. Maybe there's a good reason for why the municipality is doing it the way they are. So I think those loss control visits are really important. They also inform us as to coverages we may need to change, or educational programs, like I alluded to town highway garages. We had 3 years ago, I think we had a bunch of highway garages that burned down because the snow plows, the battery disconnect that the trucks had, or some did not have a battery disconnect at all, but if it did, it wasn't engaged. And after they came back from plowing, the batteries started on fire, took the whole highway garage down. So we started a whole initiative to get every municipality to certify that they have the devices they need to stop that, and it's worked. So yeah, we have a loss control team out there. It's a big state. We have a lot of members, but they're committed this year to be out there and again, visit everybody that's over $50,000 in premium, and the others under that. Every other year, they're going to visit them.
You brought up cybersecurity earlier, and that seems to be a big growing area. The .gov move now, everyone's got to move to .gov. Are you getting more subscribers kind of interested in that protection?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. When we first started to offer cyber insurance, nobody was offering it. So there was a need for our members. And the traditional insurance companies were a little leery about going into that area. But now that they see the number of claims that have come in or not come in, there's a lot more competition in the cyber market. So we now have a stance where I think a quarter of our members buy cyber from us. The rest either don't have cyber insurance or they buy it from somebody else, and we're okay with that. The interesting approach we've taken is we have somebody on staff who's got her PhD in cybersecurity, and she helps our members, whether they buy cyber from us or not. She helps them on a daily basis, on their cyber hygiene. Even their, going to buy cyber, what they should be looking for, even if they're not buying it from us. So it's definitely an area that we're focused on, but there's more competition now, so the approach we've taken is a little bit different.
So, when someone's looking at their buying insurance, one of the things you're looking at is the financial stability of the, say, carrier or
Yep.
the organization. Can you talk a little bit about NYMIR's financial
Yeah,
position?
like I said at the beginning, we started with 26 subscribers, and actually the three associations fronted the initial capital to form the company. But then as subscribers came in, they had to pay in capital. As we've grown, our surplus has grown, we've returned all that capital. There are a few non-subscribers that if they came back to us, pitch for them to come back, we have their capital waiting for them. So um, my point is, our surplus has grown. We now have 125 million in premium. We have over 90 million in surplus. So we're well capitalized. In terms of our surplus, we're A minus excellent rated by AM Best. AM Best is the Moody's or the Fitch of the insurance world. They're a rating agency. So we've been at A minus excellent steady for years, and in this current environment, that's a really good thing. I alluded to we're a not-for-profit, so most insurance companies they're looking for a combined ratio of under 100. 100 means for every dollar coming in, you pay it out plus expenses. We aim for 100, and because we don't want to make a profit, and then we rely on our investments to add to surplus, which we've been successful in doing, in almost every year. So, we're really healthy. We're really healthy financially.
Hasn't been easy these past maybe couple months and couple years, but
Yeah, the hourly looking at the ticker can get to you. You got to take the long view.
That's right.
And we've done well with that.
That's right. That's
The
great.
other thing I should have mentioned before, Chris, when you said what makes us special, we've always had this approach of we're going to defend claims, because there are some insurance companies that just want to settle right off the bat. And we think the reputation of local governments and local officials is important. So we've always been aggressive in finding coverage, defending claims, and then when we have to pay a claim, handling it promptly for our members. So I think the way we handle claims, also, I don't think there's another insurance company that does this. If we deny a claim of a municipality, they can come to we have an appeals committee they can come to that I sit on, that one of our board of governors members, if it was a town that came to appeal, it would be somebody from your staff that would sit. So we're not only are we responsive, we're open to the arguments of our members in cases like that.
I think that is one of the unsung huge benefits of NYMIR is the defending. And as a supervisor of 15 years previously, I can tell you how important that is. Because, municipalities, like a lot of places, are open for this, just kind of let's just go at them and see what we can get out of it. And that publicly doesn't play well for the municipality or for the elected officials. And so that's important. That's important. Reputation defense is important.
Yeah, and especially in New York, where we have joint and several liabilities. So to your point, everybody wants, if somebody's suing somebody, they want to bring a municipality into the lawsuit, because if the person being sued doesn't have the resources to pay the claim, well,
the taxpayers do.
The taxpayers have unlimited resources.
That's right.
According to the law.
According to the law, that's right. So, Peter, I think we've gone through a lot of information here. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to touch?
No,
about?
I think it was a good primer on NYMIR, and without getting too into the weeds.
Yeah, that's right. If people want to get a hold of you, or if they want more information on NYMIR, what should
if they go to NYMIR.org, that's our website, and we've got some new informational brochures on there. All the contact information is there, and my phone number is there. Any municipal official that has a question and maybe doesn't want to call their broker wants to call us. I should have said that as well. We work through local brokers, and they are an important part of what we do. There are a lot of brokers in New York who've come to know NYMIR really well and take pride in NYMIR and have helped us grow. So that is an important part of our program. But I can always be reached and put them in contact with the right person on our team.
Good. I appreciate it. We are, again, going to be coming at you next week. I don't have a guest lined up just yet, but we do have a few folks that we're talking to. So make sure you tune in again to Talk of the Towns. Of course, like, subscribe, and share. Those are important for us. Like, subscribe, and share. And any information you want or any information you want to share with us, nytowns.org. Email us. You have an idea for a show, a podcast, that'd be great. But otherwise, Peter, thank you so much for being here. I know
Thanks,
you're a busy
Chris.
guy.
I appreciate the opportunity.
You know, it was great. It was,
Thanks
you
for
know, when
having me in your studio.
people people talk about insurance, but I think you make it very interesting.
All right.
So
I'll take it.
thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you.